This is The City Eternal, Chapter 2, We Are Zebra Nation. There are 28 days, a full moon cycle between the graduation ceremony and when we are officially expected to begin our adult lives. It's that warm time of year when the days are long, the trees are fruitful, and a few missing hands do not cause too much hardship in the living forest. Zephyr B started his time off staring at the sunset at the overlook the night after graduation, and then disappeared with the other runners after that. No one knew where they went, and no one was worried. We have to let them have a touch of freedom so that they know that they can run, but make the living forest so enticing that they will not want to, my father said when I asked him his thoughts about this. Amarillo Bear went on a hike with his fellow whisperers and afterward disappeared. Were they following the songs of animals or just the natural sensual impulses of youth? No one knew, and no one was worried about them either. I thought I would have the month off too. Not that I was going to go on some grand adventure with my friends, but I was looking forward to having time for reading, taking long hikes, and enjoying the wildflowers and thinking, the one thing I was semi-proficient at. But the day after graduation, my father loudly knocked on my door as he was heading out. It was just barely light out. It's time to get dressed, he tells me. There's someone that's going to be coming for you soon. I was startled, confused. Who could possibly be coming for me, I asked, rubbing sleep from my eyes, genuinely perplexed. I was looking forward to sleeping in, reading and doing nothing, but I slowly and dutifully rolled over, threw on my tunic and pants and grabbed my bag, then rinsed my face in the basin. There are some muffins and berries in the kitchen, my father said cheerfully. I grunted. I groggily stumbled into the main room, half asleep and still dreaming. My father hadn't left yet when I reached the door. I think he was waiting for me, stalling, unsure what to do. He put his hand on my shoulder. We all have our place. Whatever you are assigned to do it with a smile, he tells me. I will, I tell him. I am serious, he said, staring intensely at me. My father is not often serious. What is wrong, I ask. Have I not done enough to give thanks to the living forest? I truly am thankful for everything that has been given to me. He smiles, trying to change the mood. Don't worry. Nothing is wrong, but you are an adult now and you have to act like one, which means you are going to have a job. We have to keep you busy, make you useful. They say that in the living forest, we all work together. I know, I said. We all play our part. He looked at me with that serious stare, then smiled again. Listen, he said. I know you're not going to be ecstatic about this, but it'll work out. All suffer a little so that none suffer a lot. Maybe you'll even find your people. I grabbed a cup and had a drink of water from the xylem flowing against the wall. Do you know something I do not? I asked. He did not answer directly. Then, after a moment, your future lies with those in charge, the ones who really know everything, who talk to all the plants and animals, the whisperers. They confer with the seers, the ones who have visions all the time, the ones who walk in dreams. They think everything through pretty thoroughly. I know that they do, I say, and whatever the job is, I'm sure it will be fine. It's good to be able to do something for a community that has given me so much, I say. Cloudy sky, make me proud, my father says. I will, still sky, I say back, and try to smile as broadly as I can. He smiles back and pulls me closer to hug him. Good luck, he tells me, before taking off on a light jog down the street. I grab an apple from the basket on our counter and wait. I breathe in the air and try to relax. I count to 10. I breathe. I tell myself to relax, but it doesn't work. My mind is still racing, my hands and armpits sweaty. The announcements start to come in on the cornophones, giant horns that have been cobbled together with twine and bamboo to transmit sound across long distances. It's going to be a sunny day today, a booming voice said. 45 degrees Filius. The 185th graduation last night went off splendidly. Thank you to all of our brothers and sisters, squirrels, raccoons, deer, bear, spider, fern, mushroom, and otherwise. Gentry seer Abigail Wind is 135 today. Wish her a happy birthday if you cross paths. She knew people who saw the dark world that came before Zebra Nation. It looks to be a splendid day, perfect weather. It's the second day of the 5th month, 2 Turkey, which is a lucky day, a lucky sign for all of our seers and builders out there. Bless the living forest. Bless the living forest, I mumble, and from across the forest down the street, people saying, bless the living forest, make the refrain echo. I look out the window wondering when this person who was going to take me to my new job would appear. I didn't see anyone, just noticed that my neighbors spying on me suspiciously, as per usual, since they were retired and did not have much else to do to occupy their time. I took a bite of the apple and covered my head. I tried again to relax, to breathe. But then I heard a noise, and suddenly there was a short old man with red cheeks and very few teeth staring at me from the top window. He didn't say a word, just gestured for me to follow along. I'm not sure I wanted to follow because there was something unnerving about his look, his unwavering gaze. I had seen this man before. You see everyone in a nation as small as ours, but I never felt comfortable seeing him. Still, I was obligated to follow him. I didn't want to let Zebra Nation down. So, I told myself, this is going to work out just fine. I threw the apple, with only one bite taken from it, into a bucket of rotten fruit, compost, and worms and followed the old man. He was wrinkled and bent, but moved about quickly, gesturing for me to keep up, and chuckling from time to time when he heard me gasping for air. You're not going to be getting a chaperone every day, so I suggest you learn to pick up the pace, he said, and I wheezed as I trailed behind him. It's nice to meet you, I say. The old man simply grunted in annoyance and gave me some unsavory hand gestures. We are not here to be nice. We are not here to be pleasant. We are here to do work. Do your job and we'll get along fine, he said, without looking back. Bless the living forest for our work, I said. You won't be blessing anything at the end of the day, he replied with a smirk. That's nice, I said to him. So, do you have a name? My name is Hurricane, if you need to know, he said. Now, grab some of those pink flowers on the ground over there. I did as I was told. He grabbed them from me and shoved them straight up and into my nose and then his. What are you doing? I asked, surprised. They told me you're not very bright, he said, mostly to himself. Now, follow me, he said, and led me down some back streets full of insects, deer, and birds. As we went about, rodents scattered quickly. I tried to breathe in and couldn't smell a thing. That's when I knew for certain where we were going. The outhouses. Mice and snakes scurried out of our way as we went to the cluttered collection of junk, mulch, straw, and outhouses. We have a pretty easy job, he told me, opening up an outhouse door and coming out with a bucket. He threw the bucket contents into a wheelbarrow. Plop. This is a very simple job. You move poop from the outhouses to the piles, add some green, some grass or straw if it needs it, and then move on to the next one. I thought the animals, the worms, did all of this, I said. Nature helps us out, but there's still a lot of dirty work to be done to make human ore, he said. I sighed. Oh, is it too much for Prince Cloud? He asked. Are you upset that the animals and plants left some work for humans and that there is no perfect bliss and harmony and love and kombucha? I will do my job, I said dutifully. We all suffer a little so that none suffer a lot. He grunted. Good. I wish I could have been a builder, I said. Again with the complaining, Hurricane muttered to himself. Listen, he said, this time to me. Even if you were a builder, do you think you would be happier? Are you so sure that you would not learn some uneasy truth about that line of work, too? Life isn't some big fun adventure. A lot of it's boring and monotonous and tedious. I don't say anything, I just grab a shovel and follow his lead. The day passes fairly quickly after I get used to how heavy the shovel is and the routine of everything. I see a lot of streets I never saw in my youth. Ones with tree houses, ones with cob houses and stone houses and root cellars as houses. The day was long. I told myself it would get better. I wasn't going to lie to myself and tell myself it was fun, but I was hoping it would become at least more tolerable. Maybe even this hurricane and I would be friends. The day slowly eventually passed. When it got late, he just pointed at the sun, told me to meet him at the end of the street, same time tomorrow morning, and not to be late, before he half-heartedly waved goodbye, asking me to bring less words with me tomorrow. I went home, leaving my immensely smelly shoes and pants outside, and then unclogged my nose before nearly gagging and going in. I grabbed a quick glug of water from the xylem and grabbed another apple to munch on. I fully intended to eat it, but instead, I collapsed on the bed, a lot more tired than I realized, and dropped the fruit beside me. I start dreaming almost immediately. In the dream, I am in a beautiful, tree-speckled meadow in the living forest, the sounds of familiar birds and insects all around me. But I am not alone. Someone is following me in my dream. I look behind me and I see something, or someone, duck behind a tree. I slow my breath and can tell who it is. It's the queen. I pretend I don't notice and continue walking. It is much darker and I have walked miles, but I can hear her, still, right behind me. I'm just going to meet my mother, I announce out loud, hoping to deter her. I continue to walk in the field, and even as the sun sets, she is still following me. I'm at the edge of the forest, and here I see the wall before me, glowing orange and red and shining in the sun at the top of the hill. I hear her calling to her guards. Don't trust him and don't let him pass. Whatever you do, do not let him pass. I begin to run to the wall. She follows. I run, and that's when I wake up, stumbling out of bed, covered in sweat. Are you all right up there? My father calls out. I rub my side and slowly pull myself up. I glance out the window and my neighbor is watching again. I'm fine, I yell out loud enough for both them and my father to hear. I pull on some trousers and go to see my father. Bless the living forest, he tells me. You missed afternoon prayers. I'm sorry, I was tired, I tell him. He smiles. Not a good excuse, but understandable. You must have had a hard first day, he says. You must have been asleep for a full sun turning. I am tired, but I will get used to it, I say. They had me shoveling poop, I tell him. I know, he says. They told me last week. Plus, I could smell it. You already knew? I asked. Shocked. I wanted you to find out for yourself, he told me. Besides, there's nothing I could do to change your assignment once the seers have their visions. Speaking of visions, I think I had one, I tell my father. He smiles. He doesn't even look at me. No, you did not, he says. But I saw it, the wall. In my dream, I saw luscious snakes, too. She was telling me not to go to the wall, I said. That just sounds like a dream, he says. And a smart one. The wall is there to protect us both from outsiders coming in and so we do not leave, and for those reasons we must stay far away. I nod. Of course. But how do you know it isn't a vision, I ask. It seemed so real. And how would you know if it was really real? He asked. I stuttered. I just would. You would not, he said loudly. Look, son, I love you, but ever since Mother died, you have been somewhat off, not connected to the living forest. Again, I do not blame you, he said, but there is much you do not know, and you need to remember that. But, I say, after graduation, the Queen was watching me too. Now you're just making up stories, my father said with an annoyed look on his face. Listen, a dream and a vision are very different, he said, exhaling in frustration. A dream is not real. It is just the random firing of your brain. A vision is a prophecy, and it connects to the real world. It prophesies something that will or has happened. What you're describing is just a reflection of youthful insecurities. Maybe, I said. And I guess you're right. Still, maybe it means something. I start to look away, wishing I had not started this conversation. My father, sensing my unease, looked at me a second and then said, We should change the subject. What do you want for dinner? Tacos, I said. Tacos, especially with acorn goulash and cilantro, are my favorite. He eyed his pack, then rushed over and opened it. Your favorite tacos are right here. I got them from Elder Night Moon this afternoon. Like they said in the announcements this morning, today was a good day for builders, he said, handing me the pack. I smiled and he unwrapped the tacos. Bless the living forest, I said, and he repeated. Then we ate. The next month passed by relatively quickly. I fell into a pattern of work, eat, sleep, repeating and repeating until I got faster and faster at cleaning out the outhouses and monitoring the humanure piles. I look at the sky one night and realize that the moon is already nearly full again, which means a new month and the height of the hot season. It also means people will soon be bringing out decorations of greenery and flowers for the harvest of plenty that will soon be upon us. It also means all my fellow grads will soon be back, starting their work. And despite feeling like an outsider and jealous at times, I missed hearing stories about them. I'm watching the night sky one night when I see Zephyr B walking down the street. Strange seeing you here, he calls to me. Strange seeing me? Did you accidentally walk 5 miles from the runner's camp? I ask. He hesitates and looks down at his feet nervously. I smile. I just didn't expect you, I said. I'm sorry you couldn't come with us. I really am. And I apologize if I was cold to you, he said. I get it, I said. I wouldn't want me as a friend either. He rolled his eyes. It is not that I don't want you as a friend. You're not that bad, he said. It's just hard to explain you to the others. They all like you, I think, but you are a little different. I am a gnat or something, right? I guess you're the only one who likes gnats, I say. Don't say that, Zephyr says, taken aback, and do not put yourself or gnats down in that way. We are all loved by the forest and each other. I'm shoveling poop, I tell him. That doesn't mean you're useless or unloved, he said. Actually, I think it does. When we were younger, I used to talk to the squirrels and birds, not just understand their calls. Now I can barely understand humans, I said. He sat down. You'll figure something out, he said. I wish you could have joined us. We went as far east as the sea and went to the mountains in the wall. And another thing, Amber Wasp and me are committed to one another. Congratulations, I said. So tell me more about the wall. You're not going to ask more about Amber? He said. She seems nice. There's really not much to ask about, I said. Zephyr rolled his eyes. Okay, so your people skills still need work, but as far as the wall, there really isn't much I can say about it. You know we were breaking rules by going there, Zephyr said. I'm not going to tell on you. Who would I even blab to, I asked. He looked over his shoulder, looked down at the ground, but he couldn't look me in the eye. It hummed, he said. And it looked like stained glass. Was it orange and red? I asked. Yeah, but how did you know? He asked. I smiled. Lucky guess, I said. Really, he said, his eyes narrowing. That's more than a lucky guess. I smiled. I'm the new head humanoid assistant, maintenance man. How would I know anything? He stared at me intently, said, You are strange, cloudy sky, and then smiled that big broad grin of his, and then stood up, waved and went on his way. If you need anything, come and find me, he said. I try to go back to watching the night sky. I try to think about how it's so big and clear, and I feel so connected when I think about how we are all living under that same sky, how we are all one being, essentially. I try to breathe like they taught us in school to help focus our minds. I try to think about the plants, the animals, the living forest. I look for tracks, listen for the thoughts of animals. I desire to become one with them, one with the story of that the living forest weaves for us all. But all I can think about is the wall, how Zephyr confirmed that it was indeed shiny and orange and red, and how it must have been a vision that I saw. I sit in my bed for what must be a full sun turning, my head just filled with anxiety and thoughts that just won't stop. If I did see the wall, what does that mean? Is it a vision? Is the queen following me? And why is that? A voice calls out to me. You're going to miss evening potluck, my neighbor yells. Stop daydreaming and join us. I nod and start heading downstairs. As I do, I hear some crows flutter outside the windows, and I am suddenly overcome with extreme sensitivity to sights and sounds. Every noise of the wind or from the animals fills me with unease, nausea. I ignore my neighbor who is watching me, as always, and go back to my bed. Despite her yelling at me that I have to fulfill my community obligations, I fall asleep instantly. In the blackness of sleep, I stumble into a dream, or is it a vision? And I see my mother again. I call out to my mom, but she's on the top of a hill in the forest and is approaching the wall. She doesn't hear me. I call and run towards her. She's at the wall now and still doesn't see me. I get even closer. She raises her hands in surrender before a guard. I yell out to her, "Let's go home." She doesn't move. The guard raises his hand. My mother stands like a statue. I yell again, even though it's becoming obvious neither could hear me. My mother walks backwards, slowly. She's wearing only a simple blue tunic and gown. The guard raises his hand higher, and I can see he's holding something small and rectangular in his hand. I hear her calling to the guard, "Please," she said, "I just want to live." "Don't trust her and don't let her pass. Whatever you do, do not let her pass," says another voice. It's the queen, standing behind the guard. The guard holds up his hand, but my mother continues walking. The guard then presses a button on the thing in his hand, and my mother falls to the ground instantly.